And the whole thing is everybody shames themselves tremendously. And to me, by not being in denial of anyone's existence of bad is diminishing some of the cause and effect that has transpired when you're in denial of any existence of it. Any existence of wrong, you're in denial of it. Like, oh,
I never do wrong.
Yeah. So basically, it's kind of like people self-punish themselves all the time, endlessly. And I kind of have, like the bucket list, Jack Nicholson. Well, mine's just 2 baskets. One's good.
Who's Jack Nicholson in the bucket list?
Yeah. Well, yeah. But mine's just two buckets. And that doesn't matter what numbers within the bucket. Well, what's very important is whatever was bad that has happened you went through, you have to review what has happened since that is over with. Well, was it as bad as you initially thought? Being such, well, you're accepting and not denial of any ill or bad thing. So you're diminishing some of the effect that if you keep denial, it'll still be existing. You don't want things to disappear. You just want to acknowledge that it's existence, and it's okay to have existence on it. Because shaming yourself doesn't do any good either way. And like when people were back to the track, when people were biggest damaging effect for employees and workers is micromanagement and employment, and what that does.
The biggest effect.
Yeah, biggest damaging effect.
Damaging effect. Okay.
Yeah, because what that does is a very employee that's part of the establishment, doesn't matter what level or rank they're within the company.
From entry level CEO.
They're still, it doesn't matter. They're representing the company either way. So if you're treating the people good both ways, they'll be more obliged.
Absolutely.
To cooperate and make.
I worked for excellent companies. I worked for awesome companies, and I've worked for horrible companies. I've had probably over 50 jobs in my life.
And the biggest hurting damage that a micromanager does to the employee, it basically prevents their own creativity forever existing. Because if that micromanager is constantly...
Would you think that modern society is designed in a way to where we don't want us to create it? They just,
because
like George Carlin said, smart enough to run the machines, pay your taxes, blah blah blah.
It's kind of like a person that's constantly beaten.
Do you know who Edward Bernays? You know Edward Bernays?
What?
Edward Bernays?
No.
Edward Bernays was hired by the federal government in the 1920s or 30s to draft, get ready for this, public relations, and that which covers school, education, everything, just about everything that we are subject to as American citizens.
Yeah, well, part of my gig. I worked at Kaiser for 30 years, but then part of my gig was I only have a high school diploma, but part of my gig was I worked at localbusinessnetwork.com, and I was there 4 years, and I got a title.
What was it called?
Localbusinessnetwork.com. So it's like a startup company, and for all local businesses, and local businesses will help community and help the underdog people that still need jobs. They can't always get the high-end seat. There's not CEO only jobs, so and that's why.
Was it the 80s, 90s?
Yeah. Well, that's why you have some towns that literally are dying because older people may not want progress, but what happens is the children that live in the very town that their parents are, they can't afford to live there because
right now?
in some cases, like
Oh,
California especially.
forget about it, dude. You can't fucking. In the 1983, my mother and I moved from Forest Hill, California, to Auburn. She was able to rent a condominium, 2-bedroom, for 400 something a month, or 400 flat. And she was an LVN, made good money, and now those same apartments are 1,700. They're pushing 2,000.
And what's driving the market, everybody kind of wonders, but what's driving the market is we need to get outside investors out of our country. And the very investors that are gobbling up properties right and left, real estate.
You know how much farmland China owns in the United States?
China.
You know how much land Bill Gates owns?
Yeah. Well, it's not so much Gates as China, because
you
see, they're buying this land, but we don't know if they're feeding their bomb pile with what they're buying. Okay.
Yeah,
and also there's other things. Everybody wonders all the trouble that's in the Mideast and everywhere. Well, like the former Soviet Union, okay, when they're not fighting about background or culture, they're not fighting about oil. You know what the number one thing they're fighting about?
Who is this? This is the
former
Sunnis.
Soviet Union.
Oh, former Soviet Union.
Okay.
Who's fighting? Each other or Ukraine?
Russia, the Czech republics, all the different republics, they don't get along right now. Well, what the reason is?
The breakup.
Well, what they're fighting really about. Okay, the former USSR, Soviet Union. Okay, they were all one power nuclear. They divided up. So who in the fuck is having control of all those buttons, of all those silos, of those nuclear warheads, but within those republics? That's what they're fighting about. Who's controlling those bombs?
Who's controlling the button?
Yeah. Yeah, because you see, with the republics there, the president, like Putin, he can't control in each of those republics. They're no longer Soviet Union. So, that's what it is. All those nuclear warheads all over the place within that former Soviet Union. That's what they're fighting. Who's controlling it?
I thought Putin was.
They never shut him down. They never really. Oh, let's turn up the power dollars.
Didn't Gorbachev come over here? Not Gorbachev. One of those guys come over here to help us dismantle nuclear weapons back in 1990, 91.
Well, supposedly, but you see, they may have done that for us, but did they do it for themselves?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so that's the whole thing. You see, and bad trade issues we've had for years and years and years. And first to start with the Native Americans, okay, they trade, Native Americans had arrows. Okay, white people had guns. Then it went to bigger things, whiskey, all that stuff. Now we're trading missiles, bombs, and all that with other countries. What part of that history issue is right? And just because they support this, we're going to protect them. So it's still that same kind of circle. And the thing is, you don't want any lunatic like that's in those offices. Okay, some people say, we'll get involved with those other countries. Well, you take a lunatic that could be as lunatic as when we had our Pearl Harbor issue. They brought war to us here. So we don't want that. So, but also, we don't want anybody getting hands on certain things. So we have to keep an eye on what's going on. Because it's kind of like put it this way, a crazy witch doctor that has a Lamborghini. Okay? We don't want them, the equivalent of the time and space. It's like cavemen having something far sophisticated. They don't even have a concept. Their time, our time. And there's a lot of countries that have still, they're still this way and not now. Because some never even saw anything as fancy as probably a sneaker.
Right. Dirt floors.
Yeah, so when they don't see that, they're still thinking they're in barbaric stage, sticks and stones.
Absolutely. Because we can go there in the mine, like just going camping or getting lost in the mountains for a
and
week.
you know, You know, when somebody gets a hold of a certain thing like that, something going to their head, that is when it goes to somebody's head. New toy. Okay. Yeah, and that is why I think we have a lot of major problems out there, is we need to kind of educate certain countries that are willing to accept some education. But if we don't get involved, everything's going to go off all different directions.
Yeah, I mean,
It's sad.
yeah, we became the world's 911. But I mean, yeah, to a point, I believe we should be in. I don't know. It really is other countries' fucking problems, but.
Yeah, because you see, I mean, it's like with the real estate.
Do we go in and just take over North Korea and just tell people in North Korea you're free, you're freaking free now?
Well,
what would happen? Do you think?
Well, basically, try to do that. Basically, they just pull out all their arsenal, even stuff that we don't even know even exists. They, like the Koreans, they have what is only visible, what we know they have.
Right.
I mean, you know, it's kind of like a.
Because there are people.
It's kind of like a game, sports or something. If you don't know that person has an extra trick in their shorts or something.
Oh, well, Kim Jong Un. I think the last time they, unless it's just to, you know, fuck us up, but they did a missile test and it landed in the China Sea and
you see,
went right back down.
And the way I'm thinking is, you see, whatever's negotiated with some of those countries, it's we're North Korea. We're North Korea. We're not the United States, so we don't have to do anything that anybody says. I'm just thinking in terms of that.
Because people are starving there. I mean, she's basically doing the same thing, sort of to them. I don't know. It's Mao.
It's like a bad
like a Mao and Stalin.
Problems happening in the workplace. Oh, I don't see nothing going on wrong.
Or just keep the bad guy around. You know?
And that's basically kind of how it is. It's everybody has to know certain elements. True. Yeah, I forget when it happened, but I have a bad back injury, and I know when my son was in daycare, he, you know, the whole thing is you bring the kid, you're going to work, bring the kid, get him really quick. Part of the reason is they are already distracted with things, so don't want them to get distracted to think of, oh, I don't want to go to school or something. Big backpack, and that's a year when they were getting rid of the backpacks out of lockers.
Backpacks out of what?
Lockers in school. So.
What year was that?
It was probably 5 or 6 years ago.
Why did they get rid of backpacks?
Because of younger kids having contraband going, just guns, knives, everything.
That's right.
Yeah, not only that.
Damn.
The kids are getting younger.
Fuck, yeah.
Yeah, they're getting younger. They're not getting older. They're getting younger. Yeah, when I was not even a freshman of high school, in junior high, just when kids stabbed somebody at the junior high, I wasn't even a freshman in the high school yet. He was the same year. He stabs a kid in school, brings a knife to school. He stabs a kid.
The school that your kid went to?
No, it was when I was going to school. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And what it was is, you know, I forget how old my son was, but basically, bring him in and lift the backpack out of the car and try to hurry to get him in there. It's not so much to be late for work, but just trying to get him settled when you bring him to places like daycare and stuff. And then they may not be quite happy. You just don't want them to focus on something else in that process. So you try to keep things flowing when they're a young age. You have kids?
Got two.
Yeah. So some of them are okay in one respect, but they're already distracted with something.
What about your kids? What do you have?
But
What do you have? How many kids and what?
I have just one. And
One boy,
one, yeah.
son.
Yeah, he was kind of my wife at the time. She kind of sheltered him so much.
How old is he now?
He's probably 30 something.
Huh. My oldest is 35.
And
She's in Idaho State Jail, Idaho jail right now.
There's all sorts of different things that, I mean, not that I responded to everything or something, but you know, my son was 16. We were close to a Burger King, and it was like early afternoon, 2:30 or something. Well, this is my wife. She'd be waiting on him, hand and foot, bringing meals and stuff. So I made the basic suggestion: give him some money. He can go to Burger King and get what he wants.
Like garbage.
Well, no, my wife looked at me like, Dad.
Used to be good. Burger King used to be good.
No, well, it's not so much
It's horrible.
it's not so much that. It was because my wife was trying to make it easier. My wife was cooking everything special for him. We would buy groceries. She'd be fixing something special for him. I could be able to eat what he has also because it's pooled money. I wasn't greedy at that. That's something I like also. She wouldn't even have anything by the time I was gonna eat something. It was all him. So not only that, he wasn't working. Not that I mean, he's my son, but the thing is, as a family, you fix for everybody, not just that way. Not separate.
So your wife just cooked for him,
Yeah, basically.
and you were just whatever.
And not only
man.
that,
There's
I was
there's some fucking cup of noodles in there. Get it. I'd be like,
and you see, I made more money than she
I'd be
did.
like, woman, who's the man in the house?
No. You see, I made more money than she did, and I was farther commute than she
Jesus.
had. She worked at daycare.
Did she hate you, or I mean,
Well,
fuck.
She.
How do you cook? How do you cook just for the kid and not for your husband?
Well, it's for her. It was all about her and everything.
Oh, she's kind of a narcissist, or
Yeah, and basically, she, like, I made more money than she did, and I was farther. So, for example, when I wanted to go out to eat, I mean, I made more money. I went to lunch somewhere. It was not like Red Lobster or something. but-
hopefully you ditched her, left her home.
Well,
Peanut
because-
butter and jelly, bitch.
Well, the only, no,
I'm
the
sorry,
only,
I don't mean
yeah,
to talk
the
about.
only
I
reason,
don't mean to talk about your
yeah,
wife like that.
Yeah, the only reason on my way home, I needed to get something to eat was it took me an hour to get home because I had a commute. So, being I had a distance and she didn't have one, I had to finagle to, you have a car support, fine, but I had my body support. I had to eat when I needed to eat something. It was
She
not-
had what support?
she was closer to her job, 10 minutes.
Oh, okay.
I was an hour commute. She was 10 minutes. I was an hour.
I would.
And I hit all that fucking traffic and the whole 9 yards.
Before
just to pay
before you knocked her up, I would have ran.
Yeah.
Run.
Yeah, so, and like for example, when my son had little disputes with other kids when he was young, my wife would go over to the parents' house and try to tell the parents on how to raise their kids. And so,
Wow.
not that
Oh.
my son, not that my
So she just waited on him hand and foot, doted.
yeah.
Doting
So
on
I
him.
call him the bubble child.
She's still living at home with mom.
Well, he's basically, I don't think he knows what females are because he such where
He's in his 30s, don't know what females are.
he basically doesn't have the element of actual caring for somebody. So,
Yeah, he's just a non-affectionate
yeah,
person.
so I can see somebody.
So is he asexual?
uh,
Just no sexual desire or whatever? Isn't that what?
It's just he basically never had been social. Everything's been prevented social because homeschool
yep.
thing my wife was so protective homeschool, and I had issues with the homeschool because there's no social environment, no interaction.
I have agoraphobia to a point. I have, kind of a, social anxiety.
And you see,